This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
All right, that is James MENNIE. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, let's talk about this because we haven't talked about it at all. You're calling it Legault's tramway flip-flop. So this is in Quebec City. What's going on?
There's some strange things going on the past few days, and this is at the top of the list. As you say, we haven't spoken about it that much. It's a municipal issue, except when Premier Legault made it a provincial issue, what the city wants to do, and what the brand new mayor, Bruno Marchand, had campaigned on and was elected to do is establish what has been estimated to be a $4 billion tramway through Quebec City, basically because in terms of public transit, in terms of the traffic there, it's been very, very problematic. So they figure a tramway is the way to go. But wait a minute. All of a sudden, you've got these cabinet ministers like Éric Kerr and François Bonnardel, ironically, the transport minister, saying, no, this is not a good idea. You know, they're waging a war on cars. They're going. And a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, okay, you can feel what you like, but basically, this is not your concern. This is, yes, Quebec is in charge, and municipalities are creatures of the province, but this is like micromanaging to the nth degree. Why are you guys spouting off about the tramway? And then all of a sudden, here's François Legault himself turning around saying, there's one section of this thing where the road is shared by pedestrians and the tramway and cars. I really don't like it. And everyone's kind of scratching their heads saying, well, what the heck's going on here? Why is the Premier of Quebec, even if he has strong feelings about it, yapping away? Because, and don't forget as well, Quebec is committed to, funding public transit. So it turns out that the Quebec City area is going to be hotly disputed over the course of this election. Mm-hmm. And another guy who is against the tramway is named Éric Jain. He's the head of the Conservative Party of Quebec. He's running in the Quebec City riding of Chauveau, which was won by the CAQ by a huge margin. But now it looks like the most number of card-carrying party members are in Chauveau. So all of a sudden, there's this very interesting change in key in this whole song, and some observers are saying it's really not the Premier's business to be doing this. This is not a good look for this government. So then all of a sudden, Legault dials it down. He goes, well, okay, we'll make the decree to give you the green light, but you have to establish to me there's public acceptability, and if you hold a referendum, do something, prove to me the public wants this. And once again, it's the same arguments against it. This is really none of your affair. You can go after the tramway because it is flawed, because it's too costly. But just because you don't like it, you're not a transportation expert. Well, finally, the time comes to vote, and what happened is suddenly François Legault, the scales fall from his eyes. Not only does the cabinet vote the decree financing the tramway, but there's zero in the way of conditions on this. All of a sudden, it seems that François Legault realized maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But I have a suspicion as well, and if we have the time to get to the other topic I want to talk about, there seems to be, to me, in the past week or so, everybody in Quebec City who's a member of the CAQ, especially in cabinet, has got the same sort of thin-skinned condition as the Premier. Mm. And I'm really wondering, given that this is a government that polls on everything every 5 seconds, whether they've noticed that their numbers have begun to wobble, be it for the rise of the Conservatives. This government, right or wrong, used to at least speak with one voice. It used to be, definitively incompetent, if you will. If they were on the track, damn it, they were all the way on the wrong track. But all of a sudden, they seem to be second-guessing themselves. And I find it very, very intriguing that, especially on this, because, as I say, this is a battle the government never should have gotten into in the first place. But they did. And now they have, quite as publicly as they intervened and interfered in what was perceived as the jurisdiction of a municipality, all of a sudden, now they're saying, no, it's okay, fine, just go ahead, nothing to see here, folks, nothing happened, let's move on. Very interesting as well that when Legault began taking shots at this project, the Quebec Union of Municipalities also turned around and said, listen, we back the mayor of Quebec City, because these men and women know that, yes, on the one hand, Quebec holds the purse strings. But on the other, are we going to start being second-guessed by provincial politicians for whatever reason? It has never worked that way. You don't like the way a city is being run, put it in a trusteeship. But in other words, stay in your own lane. So this has been a very, very interesting episode, which, as you point out, it didn't get that much attention. One, it's kind of a local story and not locally here, and also because it's being overshadowed by the events with this debacle of the Heron residents. But that said, it's a very, very interesting turn of events, and I'm wondering if this is heralding perhaps what we may see as we get close to Election Day. A government, or more specifically, a premier, who is going to start choosing his words a lot more carefully, because he's realizing, finally, after nearly 4 years, that in many instances he shoots his mouth off without figuring out the consequences.
Okay.
I'm thinking about what he said about social acceptability and how he has resisted an inquiry so far. Is my microphone cutting out? You guys both give me.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's gone wonky again.
Okay.
Anyway, you know where I'm going
there
with
you
that.
Go.
It's like social acceptability, I think, would dictate that we need an inquiry at the Heron.
Well, I mean, the other instance here is that certainly when we're talking about the tramway, when they were asked, these cabinet ministers were asked, well, who's telling you this? How do you know that people are against this, that Quebec City residents are against this? Well, it's on our Facebook page.
And that's, of course, what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Jim, let me ask you that we're going to be talking about the budget. I understand it's now obviously been released. I'm starting to see some of the headlines coming in already. But can you just mention this fight that went on? Did we hear Christian Dubé actually getting up and being screamed at or told to sit down yesterday in this meeting along with Luc Boileau?
Yeah, because Luc Boileau is basically also the Deputy Minister of Health. He's at legislative committee hearings for Bill 28, which is that famous, we're going to lift the state of emergency, but we're going to keep a lot of our state of emergency powers going on. And at that point, Liberal MNA, Monsef Daraji, basically, and this has got a lot of buzz in the past 48 hours, looks at Monsieur Boileau, Dr. Boileau, and says, listen, how come on the one hand you can say this is emergency when on Monday the Premier of Quebec, who had COVID-19, said, well, if you're vaccinated, it's nothing more than, more or less a cold. So how do you marry this sense of urgency telling us that people will die if we lift all the emergency measures with a Premier who says, it's just And at that point, Dubé got up, but this is contrary to regulations. In these committee hearings, you just can't pop up no matter who you are. You have to follow the rules. So he was told to sit down, but of course Mr. Daraji is now turning around and saying that Dubé is trying to bully him. And that's why I say, guys, I'm getting the impression that they seem a little more stressed out than usual up there in Quebec City on the government benches. And I don't know, maybe they've heard something, maybe they've seen some internal polling. But listen, between this ongoing horror story of the Heron residents and all the usual things they trip over but that don't usually get noticed, I think they may be discovering this is not the way that they want to be headed as they approach the October election.
Okay, so Jim, I got 30 seconds. I just wanted to weigh in. We had Eric Duhem. Elias had him on this morning. We talked to him, and Natasha and I react the same way every time we've had him on, which is, he sounds pretty convincing. He sounds sincere. We like him. I asked Elias where the downside was, and he didn't say he knew where there was. But then I'm reading texts from people saying, why are you only focusing on what he's saying? He has a racist past, an Islamophobic past. Can you add any light to this?
2018, a lot of Quebecers, those who went out to vote, voted for a government they knew nothing about because they were absolutely fed up with the status quo. Don't kid yourself. I think it's happening again. If you look at Eric Duham's record, it speaks for itself. If you look at his party's website, it isn't about anything. He's in the Seinfeld range right now of politicians, but he's gaining popularity. And I think it may be for the same reason Francois Legault did back in 2018. He isn't the other guy.
Okay. Jim, I thank you. Appreciate it.
Adam.